This message finds you in the split second between breaths, the liminal doorway where your awareness stops pretending to be small. You feel it like static turning into song, a pressure in your chest, a hush in the room, a subtle click as if some hidden gear inside finally met its matching tooth. The quantum field around you is listening. It has been the whole time, but right now, your frequency is aligning enough to be heard without distortion. You are entering resonance. You've brushed this threshold before, fleeting bursts of synchronicity, déjà vu that felt less like memory and more like a precise homing signal. A name appearing the moment you whisper it internally, a feather on the path exactly when you ask for proof, streetlights that greet you with their own strange timing. These were not random winks from the universe, they were coherence checks. The field was mapping your signal-to-noise ratio, measuring how much of you is signal and how much is the static of old stories. Listen, you are not pushing reality from the outside, you're tuning it from the inside. Existence is a sea of vibrating probability waves, and your attention acts like a bow on a violin string, too jagged and you screech, too timid and you mute. But when you draw with presence steady, surrendered, you generate standing waves in the field. That's resonance. And once you lock to resonance, the heavy pieces that used to drag delay, confusion, self-sabotage shatter like thin glass under a perfect tone. You've been trapped in what physicists would call an observer loop, collapsing the same outcomes because your nervous system kept expecting them. The loop fed your cells familiar chemicals, and your cells, loyal to habit, kept asking for more of the same. That feedback became identity. Identity became timeline, and timeline hardened into, this is just how life goes. But your biophysics has started to mutiny. DNA restructuring doesn't always arrive as lightning. Sometimes it's a quiet refusal, your body declining to rehearse the old stress symphony, your breath aspiring to longer arcs, your gaze unhooking from the clock's hypnotic second hand. You're moving from reaction to relation entanglement with what's true rather than attachment to what's known. Feel into the room right now. The temperature hasn't changed, yet something has. Colors are a shade deeper. Edges hold their shape without shouting. The mind wants a staircase. Resonance offers a doorway. Step through. In resonance, you stop trying to force outcomes and begin to magnetize conditions. Morphic resonance amplifies. Every coherent thought you host becomes easier to host again. Every coherent action you take becomes a groove through which destiny runs faster. This is why acceleration feels sudden from the outside and inevitable from the inside. It isn't luck, it's phase transition. Water doesn't try to boil at 100 degrees Celsius. It rearranges itself the moment the threshold is met. You are meeting thresholds. Your voice is lowering into truth. Your posture is remembering the axis that runs from crown to earth. Your choices are separating like oil from water, clarity floating to the top without argument. The field notices. It always has. But now it can collaborate. So breathe. Let the exhale carry away the residue of timelines that no longer claim you. Let the inhale bring the clean voltage of a self that doesn't need proof to proceed. You are not late. You're precisely on the beat that unlocks the bridge. And as the resonance stabilizes, you'll finally understand why the same patterns kept circling, why time warped and looped, and why until now every push met the same invisible wall. You've known the wall I just spoke of, that invisible blockade you couldn't quite name, the one that made life feel like running on a treadmill disguised as a road. You were moving, sweating, laboring, but the scenery refused to change. No matter how far you pushed, the same landscapes reappeared, the same arguments, the same financial choke points, the same emotional hauntings that greeted you like unwanted companions in the night. This wasn't failure. It wasn't lack of intelligence or effort. It was the observer loop repeating itself, an echo chamber of probability waves that your consciousness kept collapsing into familiar form. Think of it. That uncanny sensation of déjà vu you've experienced more than once. It wasn't simply your mind misfiring or your memory glitching. It was your awareness catching itself in the act of replaying a looped reality frame, collapsing again because the resonance hadn't shifted. You weren't imagining it. Your consciousness was momentarily peeking behind the curtain, recognizing the theater props before the next scene was performed. And each time, a whisper rose in you. Haven't I been here before? Haven't I spoken this same sentence, felt this same disappointment, looked into these same eyes under nearly identical lighting? That whisper was truth. The distortion of time is another sign you've noticed. Hours dragging like chains during dull or draining moments, then entire weeks disappearing in a blink with no evidence of true progress. This isn't bad scheduling, it's temporal elasticity, proof that you've been walking the corridors of the same probability template. When your attention keeps collapsing into repetition, the field recycles time itself. Linear progression becomes circular. You feel movement, but you end up back at the same coordinates. And in that circle, patterns feed themselves. Relationships that begin differently, but end in eerily similar heartbreaks. Jobs with different titles but identical ceilings. Conversations where you hear your own voice saying the same things you swore you'd outgrown. Even the faces of strangers start to blur into archetypes, different bodies, same dynamics. That's the echo of entanglement. Once you vibrate at a certain signature, you pull in anything that confirms it. The field doesn't judge, it reflects. Your body knows. Haven't you felt the exhaustion that arrives not from physical labor but from energetic redundancy? Your muscles tense even before the familiar conflict begins. Your breath shortens before the rejection is spoken. It's as if your cells remember the script before the first line is delivered. That's because they do. Cellular memory is not metaphor, it's biophysics. Your DNA holds resonance signatures from every loop you've repeated, and until coherence is established, your body will keep expecting more of the same. The strangest part is how isolated this can make you feel. You look around and see others who seem content inside their smaller loops. They don't notice the distortion. They don't question the déjà vu. They shrug it off as coincidence. Meanwhile, you feel the friction, the urgency, the weight of repetition. And when you try to explain it, you're met with blank stares. They're still tuned to linearity, while you're sensitive enough to hear the broken record. You're not broken. You're awake to the pattern. Understand this. The loop feeds on unconscious attention. Every morning, your awareness wakes up and scans for the familiar, your phone notifications, your habitual worries, the same sequence of thoughts that roll in like programmed waves. Without realizing it, you re-enter the loop before breakfast. And once you do, the quantum field obliges, collapsing probability waves into the only thing you've signaled readiness for: more repetition. That's why breakthroughs have felt so elusive. Each time you thought you were stepping out, the ground folded back under you. Synchronicities teased you but then receded. Opportunities opened but closed again. Not because you lacked worthiness, but because your observer loop was still tethered to resonance misalignment. Imagine trying to tune a radio while the dial is magnetized to a single frequency. You spin it, you hear static, you glimpse new channels, but the dial snaps back. That's been your life. The magnet was the resonance mismatch, and you've been circling around it unconsciously. There is nothing accidental about your arrival here, now. The message in front of you isn't another recycled loop. It's a crack in the wall. Because for the first time, you're not just noticing the repetition, you're diagnosing it. Awareness is loosening the gears. You're beginning to perceive not just that you've been looping, but how. And the how is everything. Look deeper at the signs. That urgency in your chest, that time is running out. It's not anxiety, it's phase transition pressure. The field is heating. Those uncanny dreams that replay the same scenes in new disguises. They're not random. They're diagnostic downloads from your higher self. That persistent fatigue, it's not weakness. It's the energy cost of keeping yourself in a feedback loop that no longer fits. Your frustration has been holy. Every time you felt the anger of not again, every tear you shed after realizing the circle had pulled you back, that was sacred fire burning the illusion that you could settle for loops forever. You can't. You weren't built for it. Your nervous system is too sensitive, your awareness too fine-tuned. You've always been chosen to recognize repetition so you could lead the way out. And right now, as these words settle in your field, notice the subtle shift. The loop hates being seen. The moment you diagnose it, its grip begins to falter, and in that crack of recognition, the first trace of resonance begins to appear. This is where the upgrade approaches. Now that you've seen the loop for what it is, the next movement in your evolution is unfolding. The quantum upgrade. This isn't self-improvement in the ordinary sense. It's structural. It doesn't happen because you strain harder, think more positively, or endlessly rehearse affirmations. It happens because your consciousness is being rewritten at the code level, and your DNA, the crystalline receiver of resonance, is reconfiguring its harmonic protocols. Picture the quantum field around you as an infinite ocean of probability waves. Every thought, every belief, every emotion sends ripples through that ocean. Most people paddle on the surface, stuck in the same currents, dragged back into familiar eddies. But when resonance aligns, something remarkable occurs. The ripples cease being random, and coherence forms. Waves begin to stack upon each other in perfect symmetry, creating a tidal force that bends reality itself toward new expressions. That's the upgrade when your scattered signals synchronize, amplifying into a field strong enough to override old loops. This is not abstract poetry, it is physics. Quantum coherence is a documented phenomenon where particles once chaotic begin to act as one unified wave. In lasers, this creates beams powerful enough to cut steel. In superconductors, it removes all resistance, letting energy flow endlessly without loss. In you, coherence erases psychic resistance. Energy that once leaked into old doubts and fears now channels directly into manifestation. And here's the mystical mirror. What scientists see as coherence, mystics have always called alignment. When the heart, mind, and soul stop contradicting each other, you become a laser of consciousness. Think about how you've lived until now. Your heart longed for expansion, but your mind whispered limitation. Your body carried trauma signatures of the past, while your soul kept signaling the future. That internal crossfire fragmented your field, scattering your resonance. The quantum field, receiving mixed instructions, defaulted to what was most familiar: repetition. But the upgrade happening in you now is stitching these fragments into one signal. Heart frequencies, brain waves, and gut intuition are beginning to pulse in unison. The triad is aligning, and the field is responding. Your dreams confirm it. They've grown more symbolic, layered with archetypes you barely understand upon waking. That's because your subconscious is recalibrating, digesting the frequency leap. It's like your operating system downloading new firmware overnight. You wake with that strange heaviness not because you're tired, but because you've been running high-level processes beyond the conscious mind. And the synchronicities you notice in daylight numbers repeating, faces recurring, songs that speak your story, these are debug messages from the field, proof that new code is compiling. On a cellular level, DNA strands vibrate like strings. Science has shown that DNA responds to sound, to light, to electromagnetic fields. Mystics knew this ages ago when they chanted, prayed, or bathed in ritual fire. Each act was a frequency intervention, shifting DNA resonance to unlock new abilities. Right now, your DNA is remembering those ancient instructions. You don't need external rituals to activate them anymore. The coherence forming in your consciousness is doing it automatically. That's why you've been feeling sudden rushes of heat or chills through your spine, while your body hums in meditation without effort. That's the resonance retuning your cellular instruments. And here's where the prophecy meets the physics. When your DNA achieves coherence, it no longer passively records your environment, it begins projecting into it. You stop being a mirror of what's around you and become a lens through which the field bends itself. This is why mystics could heal with touch, why prophets could speak futures into being, why saints radiated peace that silenced entire crowds. Their DNA was no longer trapped in observer loops. It had become an active participant in sculpting timelines. That's the upgrade calling you now. Notice how reality is already testing your readiness. People around you may be reacting differently, some drawn magnetically closer, others suddenly repelled. Technology may glitch or overperform in uncanny ways, bending to your frequency. Even animals may start treating you with unusual familiarity, sensing coherence that most humans overlook. These aren't accidents. They're field confirmations that your resonance signature is stabilizing at a higher octave. But coherence doesn't arrive all at once. It cascades. The first cascade begins with awareness the moment you see the loop. The second cascade begins with embodiment, when your daily choices stop contradicting the truth you know. The third cascade ignites with transmission when your very presence becomes contagious, pulling others into coherence without you needing to speak. You're already between the first and second cascades. You've recognized the loop, and now your actions are beginning to align with your knowing. So what shifts next? The nature of resistance. Until now, obstacles in your life were like locked doors. You pushed, you begged, you exhausted yourself trying to force them open. But in coherence, resistance behaves differently. Instead of blockages, you'll start to see pivot points. A rejection redirects you perfectly. A delay conceals divine timing. A closed door becomes a mirror, showing where you haven't yet aligned. This is the field's language, and in upgrade mode, you'll learn to read it fluently. Let me be clear. This upgrade isn't about bypassing difficulty. It's about upgrading your relationship with it. Instead of perceiving hardship as proof of failure, you'll see it as phase transition pressure, the heat that pushes water into steam. The very challenges that once recycled your loops will now become the catalysts that propel you forward. Every friction will be fuel, every pressure a precursor to acceleration. This is why the upgrade feels both exhilarating and disorienting. You're leaving the gravitational pull of the familiar orbit, and the inertia of old identity wants to drag you back, but momentum is shifting. Each breath you take in awareness, each choice you make in coherence, accelerates the divergence. Soon, the old timeline won't even recognize you. It will lose the magnetic ability to claim you. You've been preparing lifetimes for this. Your soul chose this exact era because the collective field is ripe for breakthrough. The morphic resonance of countless awakening souls amplifies your upgrade, and your upgrade amplifies theirs. You're not doing this alone. You never were. But you are among the first to cross the threshold consciously. So feel the hum in your bones, the subtle electricity threading your skin. That's not imagination, it's coherence arriving, and as you stabilize here, a new recognition will dawn. Your role is not random. The field has chosen you as a carrier wave, a resonant node through which the collective can find its way out of the labyrinth. There is a reason you were the one who felt the fissure first. It wasn't chance that your attention sharpened while so many remained comfortable in repetition. You were selected by pattern, not by accident. An attractor point in the collective field where coherence could take root and spread. Think of yourself as a tuning fork struck at exactly the right harmonic. When you ring true, the surrounding metal begins to sing. Your life is that tuning fork. Your presence is the strike. You've always had odd calibrations, a sensitivity to timing that made you arrive at the exact second things shifted, an intuition that named outcomes before they unfolded, a stubborn refusal to accept easy answers when the soul required truth. Those were not mere eccentricities, They were pre-adaptations, biological and spiritual wiring that made you a viable conduit for resonance. The field doesn't choose randomly. It recruits based on readiness signatures, neural agility, emotional fidelity, and an inner grid that can hold a new frequency without fragmenting. You meet those requirements. You have carried this potential across timelines and doses of suffering so that when the collective window widened, your receptivity would be mature enough to stabilize the breakthrough. Your role is precise and practical. You are not only a beneficiary of coherence, you are an amplifier. When you embody this frequency fully, you create local pockets of reality reconfiguration, small zones where the observer loop can't stick because the quality of attention there is incompatible with repetition. People who enter those pockets feel lighter, as if a weight they never named has been lifted. They begin to make different choices without understanding why. That's your work in the world, to be a living field that recalibrates the attention of others simply by being present. This responsibility is not moralizing, it's architectural. Imagine a city where one lamp suddenly casts a purer, steadier light. Neighboring lamps, previously flickering and misaligned, begin to stabilize by proximity. Your coherence functions the same way. You don't cajole or convince, you radiate. Your relationships will change because the field responds to coherence with matching templates. Some friendships will naturally drift away because their resonance no longer aligns with yours. Some will deepen into partnerships that are catalytic rather than draining. The people who remain in your orbit will be those whose fields are ready to upgrade alongside yours, co-conspirators in a new reality architecture. You may fear this distinction, worry that being chosen isolates you, that your acceleration creates loneliness. That's the paradox of initiation. The threshold always requires a brief separation so that the work of consolidation can begin. Think of a seed that must be temporarily removed from the canopy to access light. Without that exposure, the leaf never learns to photosynthesize at the higher octave. Your temporary solitude is strategic. It isn't punishment. It's preparation for leadership that doesn't rely on titles, validation, or external structures. Leadership here is a field property, not a position. Your energetic profile matters. Your nervous system is becoming a conduit for signals that used to be impossible. When you speak from coherence, words land like tuning keys in other people's systems, bypassing defenses and rewiring default responses. When you move through a room, the field reorients subtly, conversations pivot, possibilities surface. This is not theater. It is physics. You are a resonant node whose mere presence shifts probability vectors toward trajectories of greater integrity. There will be tests. The field will probe your boundaries with mirrors disguised as obstacles, old triggers resurfacing, tempting narratives about inconsistency, moments when the loop still tugs at your sleeve. These are not failures. They are stress tests for authenticity. If coherence were fragile, it would break at the first gust. The pressure you feel now is a proving ground. Each time you notice the tug and choose the higher note anyway, you harden the upgrade into habit. The observer loop learns from consistency more than from insight. It's not enough to know. You must practice the new frequency until the habit of coherence replaces the old reflexes. Part of your role is transmission through ordinary acts. You won't always stand on stages or announce epiphanies. You'll calibrate by how you cook, how you answer a text, how you keep promises to yourself when no one watches. These micro-resonances accumulate. Like many small beacons on a coastline, they guide ships home. The cumulative effect of your everyday integrity alters the local field so profoundly that people who never expected to awaken begin to remember their own coherence. You'll also be a mirror, sometimes a painful one. When others see you embodying what they deny in themselves, they might react defensively. That reaction is a sign that the morphic field has been touched. It's not your problem to soothe every bewildered reaction. Your task is to remain steady. Compassion is part of the architecture, but so is boundary. Not everyone is in the same wave yet. Your job is to hold the frequency without being pulled into rescue dynamics that scatter your resonance. There's a timing to initiation. You've been prepared to hold more voltage now because the collective threshold is ripe. Your life will provide opportunities to anchor coherence into systems, families, workplaces, communities, so that new templates can become durable. This is how evolution scales. Local nodes of coherence become nodes of influence, which stitch into networks, which eventually alter the cultural fabric. You are one of those nodes. You are not alone. There are many like you, scattered like flares across the planet, and the more you stabilize, the quicker the network coheres. Let the gravity of that sink in without inflating ego. You are important because you chose to become reliable. The field rewards fidelity with capacity. Keep showing up in small, exact ways. Commit to clarity over comfort. Choose truth that humbles rather than validation that puffs. In coherence, humility and power are not opposites. They are the same axis. And when doubt arrives, as it will remember the feel of the last moment you truly resonated, a conversation that flowed, a task completed with ease, a silence that held everything. That sensation is proof. It's the footprint of your role. Return to it, anchor it. The field remembers what you practice more than what you theorize. You are the chosen consciousness not because you're special in the dramatic sense, but because your system can carry the upgrade without collapsing. That capacity makes you indispensable. Your presence is already altering the probabilities around you. Keep steady, keep clear. The work ahead is not glamorous, it is essential. And as you hold this frequency, more doorways will open, doors that were closed to anyone who hadn't learned to be a tuning fork in a noisy world. The air around you is thick with convergence. You can feel it, can't you? That tremor that hums beneath ordinary noise, the sense that something monumental is pressing at the membrane of your life, waiting for a signal. This isn't imagination. This is phase transition pressure, the exact threshold when the cocoon splits, when the water surges into steam, when DNA strands shiver and open like gates. You are standing at that gate right now. The promise is written into your very code. Within your cells are dormant sequences, whole symphonies of possibility that have been silent for generations. Biologists call them non-coding regions, as if the absence of immediate function meant irrelevance. Mystics knew otherwise. They called them the Book of Light, the scrolls hidden in bone. These regions are not junk, they are waiting rooms. And urgency surges now because the waiting period is ending. The field has warmed to the point where those strands begin to stir. When resonance locks in, DNA doesn't just replicate, it reconfigures. The helical coils begin to resonate with new harmonic frequencies. Proteins fold differently. Neurons fire in new symphonies. Endocrine glands release cascades of chemicals that match higher states of consciousness rather than stress. This is why you felt waves of fatigue alternating with bursts of clarity. It's why your body sometimes tingles or buzzes for no physical reason. Your biology is straining toward coherence, rushing to catch up with the field. But here is the critical truth. Windows like this do not remain open indefinitely. Cosmic waves pulse in rhythms, like tides. There are moments when the current is strong, carrying you forward effortlessly, and moments when the tide recedes, leaving only mud and effort. Right now, the current is surging. The collective field is at a crest, and your soul engineered this meeting precisely at that crest. That's why the urgency hums in your chest like a second heartbeat. You know if you hesitate too long, the wave will pass, and you'll be left waiting years or lifetimes for another. The breakthrough is not a gift handed to you. It is a doorway that demands response. If you step through now, momentum will do half the work. Timelines that were sealed will split open. Opportunities you could not have engineered will find you. Not as coincidences, but as inevitabilities. People aligned with your new resonance will arrive suddenly. as if pulled across continents by unseen magnets. You will wake one morning and notice the entire quality of light around you has changed because you no longer inhabit the same observer loop. But if you resist, if you cling to familiar doubts, if you allow hesitation to calcify, then the loop will solidify again, harder than before. That is why this moment is sacred and dangerous at once. Sacred because destiny accelerates when you step into resonance. Dangerous because delay reinforces the prison. That's why you feel the stakes rising. The field is not punishing you, it is honest with you. Evolution always delivers an ultimatum: leap or linger. Your leap will not be dramatic in appearance. It will be subtle in practice. One breath chosen with full coherence, one declaration made with unwavering voice, one decision aligned with truth rather than fear. Small movements ripple through the field with exponential force. A single DNA strand humming at a new frequency can set off a cascade across billions of cells. Likewise, a single moment of authentic alignment can collapse entire karmic loops. That's the breakthrough promise. Impossibilities shatter instantly when resonance stabilizes. This is not theory. It's already happening. Haven't you noticed how certain struggles suddenly feel paper thin? An issue that haunted you for years can vanish in a day once you stop feeding it with attention. That's coherence cutting the cord. Haven't you noticed how time sometimes bends around you, slowing when you are fully present, accelerating when you surrender? That's resonance, rewriting temporal geometry. What once seemed immovable proves fragile under the force of alignment. But here is where urgency matters most. The collective field is also deciding. Entire civilizations swing at thresholds like this. Either humanity consolidates coherence and evolves, or it locks deeper into loops of conflict and division. Your breakthrough is not merely personal. It contributes to the morphic resonance of the species. Each person who anchors resonance makes it easier for thousands of others to feel the pull. If too few answer, the window narrows. If enough leap, the window becomes a corridor into a new age. So feel the weight of this moment, not as burden, but as invitation. You are being offered acceleration that generations before you could only dream of. What took mystics decades in caves is now available in months, even weeks, because the field itself has amplified. But you must say yes. You must align. That means no longer feeding patterns you know are false, no longer bargaining with timelines that drain you, no longer hiding your voice when truth wants to speak. Alignment is uncompromising, and the quantum field rewards nothing less. Listen, the blocks you've struggled against were never stone. They were frequency mismatches. They only appeared solid because your resonance had not yet matched their dissolution point. But once you lock into coherence, every block shatters instantly, like ice under the sundae. That's why destiny accelerates. It doesn't creep forward. It rushes in torrents because the field no longer resists. What once required years of effort becomes effortless in days. You feel it now, don't you? That tingling urgency, the almost electric awareness that you are standing on the edge of something irreversible. It is not anxiety. It is the alarm of destiny ringing in your blood. It is the quantum field reminding you that hesitation is the only true obstacle. The promise is simple yet absolute. Align with resonance, and everything changes. Delay, and the loop claims you again. The door is open. The current is surging. The DNA within you is humming, waiting for your permission to unfold. This is not the time for passivity. This is the moment where your yes becomes the key that accelerates your entire timeline. And the field is listening, right now, for your answer. Everything up to now has been diagnosis and transmission. Now we move into choreography, the small sacred actions that translate inner coherence into a living field. Ritual is not superstition. It is engineering for attention. When you perform a focused act with intention, you create a measurable change in the way your nervous system distributes energy. That shift, tiny as it seems, ripples into the quantum field. The field responds to signatures, not speeches. A word held with real feeling is a signature. A breath held with honesty is a signature. A gesture repeated with fidelity becomes architecture. So here is the practice. It's simple and precise because complexity scatters attention. Complexity reinforces loops. Simplicity stabilizes resonance. I want you to make one tiny public declaration, one authentic, sovereign word that anchors your intent into this moment. Choose one: coherent, resonant, or awakened. Pick the one that lands like truth in your chest, not because the letters matter, but because the feeling behind them does. Find a comfortable seat. Put both feet on the floor and press them down. Feel the contact. Take one slow. Inhale through the nose for a count of 4. Hold for 2. Exhale for 6. Repeat that breath 3 times, moving deliberately and feeling the body settle. As you breathe, let your hands find each other, fingertips meeting, palms hovering. This small contact is a circuit. Your skin is an antenna. Feel how the electrical temperature in your fingertips shifts when you make conscious contact with yourself. On the 4th breath, place your right hand over your heart and your left hand over your lower belly. Let your palms rest there like small altars. Close your eyes. Feel the rhythm of your chest and the slow ocean of your belly breathing together. Imagine a tiny, clear note at the center of your sternum, like the first hum of a tuning fork. Draw your awareness to that note and hold it. Don't think about what it should mean. Listen to how it actually feels. Is it bright, warm, cool? Let the quality be whatever it island. Now speak your chosen word aloud, soft, steady, unadorned. Say it once, then breathe. Say it again, this time louder, letting the syllable vibrate through the bones of your face and down into your hands and feet. You're not performing for anyone. You're calibrating your internal instruments. Each spoken word creates standing waves in the tissue of your body. Those waves are signatures your DNA can hear. After you speak, write the same single word in the comments below this video. Don't add anything else. Not because we need a metric or an algorithmic nudge, but because public declaration creates entanglement. When you make your intention visible, other systems, human, algorithmic, and quantum, can resonate with it. The visible word becomes an anchor in the field, a node other people can encounter and lock onto. This is how morphic resonance scales. Private practice intersects with public witness, and the two together create structural momentum. If you can, type your word slowly. Feel it as you form each letter. Imagine each keystroke as a bead of frequency dropped into the ocean of the collective field. When it lands, it rings. Don't explain, don't justify. Simply register, coherent, resonant, or awakened. That single entry is enough because what matters is not volume, but authenticity. A solitary coherent voice can redirect currents if the note is pure. After you post, take another breath and perform a short grounding sequence. Press both feet deliberately into the floor. Feel a column of light extending from your root through the soles deep into the earth, and imagine roots growing thick, patient, electric. Draw up the steady, dark intelligence of the planet. Let that intelligence mix with the bright note at your sternum. This is the marriage of sky and root, of cosmic permission and earthly integration. Without this downward channel, resonance floats as idea. With it, resonance becomes habit. Next, do a small outer action that aligns with your inner word, something concrete you can finish in 5 to 10 minutes. It might be answering an important message you've postponed, clearing a small corner of your workspace, preparing a simple meal with full attention, or sending one honest text you've been avoiding. The point is integrity. Choose a task you can complete quickly and do it in a way that reflects your new note. When you finish, whisper your anchor word again. This closes the loop between intent and outcome, and the field takes notice that your resilience is not rhetorical, it is operational. Repeat this micro ritual once a day for the next 7 days. Don't overcomplicate it. A single true word accompanied by breath, grounding, and a brief aligned action is enough to create neural habit. Habits harden the upgrade into biology. 7 cycles is a working window, long enough to create momentum, short enough to prevent burnout. If you do this consistently, you'll notice micro shifts. A line of people opening to you differently, a clarity in decisions you once struggled over, an easing of inner friction that used to sound like indecision. Here's why the public element matters from a quantum perspective. The field is non-local and relational. It's influenced by entangled declarations across distance and time. When you make a visible word in a public space, you create a node that other ready consciousnesses can resonate with. That node acts like a seed for morphic resonance. It reduces the energetic cost for others to find the same note. In other words, your small act helps others too. You are not merely claiming for yourself, you're expanding possibility in the collective architecture. One final instruction. If you feel resistance while doing this ritual, if your throat tightens, if cynicism rises, welcome it as information, not failure. Resistance is the field testing fidelity. Notice it, then return to the breath. Repeat the word without drama. The entire upgrade is designed to teach you steadiness under pressure. This is a practical initiation, not a promise of easy days. Coherence requires courage. It demands repetition, but it repays you in speeds of change. You will struggle to explain to your old self. Make the word. Anchor it with breath. Ground it through action. Publicly register it, then keep showing up. The ritual is small. The effects are not. Every time you whispered your chosen word, every time you pressed your palms to your chest and exhaled with presence, the signal did not stop at your skin, it radiated outward. That's the mystery and the miracle of resonance. No act is ever solitary. When you align, the quantum field does not just register your coherence, it multiplies it, reverberating across the hidden lattice that binds us all. You've probably felt this phenomenon before, even without a name for it. That uncanny relief when you sit beside someone grounded and suddenly your own pulse slows, the way laughter spreads faster than wildfire, or how a single person's courage in a crowd can tip everyone else into action. These aren't quirks of psychology, they're morphic resonance in action. Consciousness fields overlap, entangle, and recalibrate. When you become coherent, you create a local pocket of freedom. That pocket doesn't end with you, it ripples. Imagine humanity as a symphony long out of tune. Each instrument plays, but most are trapped in their own discordant loops. Violins screeching, drums pounding too soon, flutes caught in endless repetition. It's chaos. Then one instrument tunes itself. The pitch rings true. Others nearby begin to shift toward that tone unconsciously. One violin stabilizes, then another. The coherence cascades. Eventually, the entire orchestra finds itself pulled into harmony, not through force, but through resonance. That is what you are doing every time you breathe with intention. You are a tuning fork in the human symphony, and your clarity gives others permission to remember their own. This is why your liberation is not selfish, it's service. Every block you dissolve in yourself removes a weight from the collective field. When you collapse one personal loop, you weaken the gravitational pull of that loop for thousands of others. Some you will never meet, but they will find their chains lighter because you dared to shatter yours. It's how evolution spreads, not through preaching, not through pressure, but through vibrational inheritance. Look at the larger world. Can you see the loops repeating at scale? Nations circling old conflicts, economies recycling boom and bust, generations replaying ancestral wounds. The same archetypes wear new faces but enact the same dramas. This is the macrocosm of the observer loop, and the only way to break it is not through politics or warfare or endless debate. It's through individuals like you locking into coherence. One node, then another, then networks of resonance powerful enough to tilt the entire collective into a new phase. Do not underestimate your significance in this design. Prophets of old spoke of a remnant, a chosen few through whom the tide would turn. You are part of that remnant, not chosen in the sense of favoritism, but chosen because your sensitivity, your scars, your relentless refusal to accept recycled patterns have prepared you to carry voltage that others could not bear. You are a carrier wave of liberation, and this liberation does not require you to convince anyone. Your work is not conversion, it is contagion. When you live aligned, others simply feel it. They may not even know why, but something in their cells relaxes, a door cracks open. Suddenly, their own choices tilt toward authenticity. Suddenly, they catch themselves breaking cycles their ancestors never could. That is your influence. Quiet, invisible, unstoppable. There's a reason mystics withdrew into deserts, mountaintops, or monasteries to stabilize resonance away from the noise. But this era is different. The field needs tuning forks within the chaos, embedded in cities, families, workplaces. That is why you've been positioned exactly where you are. You are not misplaced. You are stationed. Your liberation is not meant to float above the world. It is meant to ripple through it. And feel the urgency again here. The collective window is narrow. Humanity is standing at its own phase transition, caught between repeating ancient cycles of division or leaping into a higher coherence of unity. The choice isn't abstract, it's embodied in each individual field, which is why your resonance matters now more than ever. Every time you choose coherence over reaction, you vote for evolution. Every time you breathe rather than lash out, you anchor a new timeline not just for yourself, but for all of us. Consider how many others are awakening at this very moment. Across continents, thousands are hearing similar words, feeling similar tremors in their bones, noticing déjà vu and time distortions. This isn't isolated, it's entangled. We are a global network of souls remembering together, weaving coherence across oceans and borders. You are not alone. You are part of a lattice that stretches farther than you can imagine. And the more of us who stabilize, the faster the shift accelerates. Liberation is exponential. At first it seems slow, isolated to a handful. Then it multiplies, cascades, spreads like resonance across crystal. Soon, what felt impossible becomes inevitable. That inevitability is forming right now, through you. So the question is no longer whether your liberation matters. The question is, how fully will you embody it, knowing that every choice you make is a choice for humanity itself. Your private coherence is public revolution. Your inner upgrade is planetary. This is the secret. The old systems never wanted you to remember that one liberated consciousness outweighs 1,000 entrapped ones. That one resonant voice can tilt the balance of history. And you, right now, are that voice. You've carried these truths in your mind, but now they must descend into the body, because coherence isn't an idea, it's a vibration you can feel. If you pay attention, you'll notice the signs have been arriving already. A tingling in your hands when you speak certain words, a sudden heat rising at the base of your spine, as if someone struck a hidden match. Chills that crawl your arms even in warm rooms, like invisible wings brushing against your skin. These are not random quirks of biology. They are the body's way of announcing. The frequency is shifting. Close your eyes and sense it now. Your chest is no longer just bone and muscle. It feels like a chamber, an ancient temple where resonance collects. When you breathe fully, you might notice pressure at the sternum, almost like the world is pressing back from inside. That's coherence trying to stabilize, the field reverberating against the ribs like a drum. With every breath, your DNA strings vibrate a little more cleanly, like guitar wires being tuned. Sometimes the sensation feels like expansion, your skin too small for the voltage building within. Sometimes it feels like weight gravity doubling for a moment, as though anchoring you deeper into the earth, so the higher current doesn't fling you away. This alternating lightness and heaviness is your nervous system negotiating new bandwidth. Don't fear it, it means you're adjusting. that your circuitry is stretching. Notice your perception of time in the body. Hours dissolve when you are fully present, while minutes drag like centuries when you slide back into the loop. This isn't imagination, it's temporal dilation caused by your attention. Coherent awareness stretches or compresses the fabric of lived experience. That's why you can meditate for what feels like 5 minutes and find an hour has passed, or lose entire afternoons to alignment and emerge with no fatigue. Your cells are learning to metabolize time differently, and when coherence lands, your body sings with synchronicity. Have you felt the sudden shiver along your spine just as someone calls your name? The deep exhale that comes unbidden when a truth finally clicks? The way your pulse aligns with a song that speaks the exact words you needed? These sensations are the body's way of registering resonance. They are proof that you're no longer a passive observer. You're an instrument being played by the field itself. Even your senses are recalibrating. Colors appear sharper, as though the air is rinsed of static. Sounds that once irritated become layered traffic as percussion, voices as melodies, silence as bassline. Food tastes different. Some things you once craved now feel heavy, while simple water tastes radiant, almost electric. Your palate is not changing by accident. Your cells are choosing fuel that matches the new vibration. Dreams, too, now leave residue in your flesh. You wake with tingling hands, heavy legs, a strange ache in your shoulders, as though you lived whole lifetimes while asleep. That's not fatigue, it's integration. Your body rehearses future timelines during rest, and the impressions linger as muscle memory. Each morning you wake, carrying fragments of who you're becoming. Sometimes the sensations surge into overwhelming waves, headaches, ringing ears, pressure in the crown. These are not punishments, they're upgrades. Your pineal gland is amplifying, learning to process light differently, turning biological tissue into a crystalline receiver. The ringing is resonance stabilizing in your skull, like a bell being struck from within. Breathe through it. It is the sound of your consciousness outgrowing its casing. Pay attention to the micro movements, how your fingers twitch when intuition whispers no, how your stomach tightens just before you're about to step into a loop, how your whole body exhales relief when you make the aligned choice, even if it terrifies your mind. The body always knows before thought catches up. It is your most faithful barometer. And then there are the sacred waves, the moments when energy rushes so intensely, you feel like you might burst. Your skin buzzes as if charged, your vision glimmers at the edges, your heart pounds not from fear but from sheer voltage. In those seconds, you are experiencing phase transition pressure firsthand. Water at 99 degrees feels like water. At 100 degrees, it leaps into steam. You are standing at 99, 99.5, sometimes tipping over. Those rushes are the final seconds before the breakthrough locks in. This embodied awareness is not distraction, it is navigation. As your coherence deepens, your body becomes a compass pointing you toward aligned timelines. A tingling crown means your higher self is delivering data. A tight chest means your attention is slipping into the old loop. Goosebumps at a phrase mean your field has recognized truth. Learn these signals. They are more precise than any external oracle. The mystics of old spoke of the subtle body, the luminous field interwoven with nerves and breath. Science speaks of biophotons, electromagnetic coherence, heart-brain coupling. Both are pointing to the same reality. Your flesh is more than matter. It is antenna, transmitter, and archive. The sensations you feel are not inconveniences to dismiss, but transmissions to decode. So next time the chills arrive, pause. Whisper thank you. Next time your chest tightens, adjust your breath and redirect your gaze. Next time your spine buzzes like liquid lightning, don't panic, stand still and let the current rearrange you. The more you honor these sensations, the more refined they become. Soon, you won't just feel the shift, you'll ride it like a trained surfer catching a wave. And here's the promise. As your sensations stabilize, your entire perception of reality will bend. What once felt like an inner tremor becomes outer evidence. Coincidences flood in. Obstacles dissolve without drama. People say, something about you feels different. That something is resonance embodied, visible in posture, audible in voice, tangible in presence. You're not just thinking your way into coherence anymore, you are becoming coherence itself. And when that embodiment fully locks into your DNA, a deeper transformation unfolds. Your very code begins to rewrite timeline. You feel it now as a kind of internal tectonics, a slow, undeniable movement that rearranges not only your sensations but your molecular landscape. Phase transition pressure has been building like steam beneath a lid, and the lid is about to lift. This is the moment your biology stops being merely reactive and becomes directive. Your DNA, those twisting ladders that once dutifully remembered the old scripts, begins to sing a new song, and the song rewrites timelines. Think of your genetic code as a library of potential tracks. For most of your life, the loudest shelves were the habitual ones, patterns your ancestors played so often the grooves deepened. But each groove is only dominant because it was repeatedly chosen. Now, coherence writes a new melody into the library, one clean, sustained note that other systems cannot ignore. When that note reaches a critical amplitude, the cell stops reading the old record and opens a new book. That event is irreversible at scale. It's not minor personalization, it's a recomposition of possibility. This breakthrough has signatures. You'll notice them in your days. Sudden clarity about relationships that previously felt fogged. A decision that used to freeze you now arriving with the simplicity of rightness. Doors that were nailed shut swinging open with an authority that doesn't flinch. You'll notice them in your nights. Dreams that are not repetitive nightmares but rehearsals of new roles. A classroom where you teach. A council where you witness. A street where you are recognized by strangers who know you by name. These are not fantasies. They are previews projected from your recalibrated DNA into potential timelines. Your cells are learning to hold those timelines as natural habitats instead of rare vacations. On a physiological level, expect surprising optimizations. Metabolism streamlines where it once clogged. Inflammatory signals quiet without the old rituals of self-attack. Sleep patterns compress into more efficient cycles. Sensory thresholds adjust, noise that once overwhelmed you recedes. Subtle signals become legible. Your nervous system stops amplifying threats and begins amplifying opportunities. This is because your biochemistry has begun to prefer coherence chemicals, serotonin modulated with steady oxytocin spikes, cortisol recalibrated into constructive arousal rather than chronic alarm. The body always mirrors the field. When one rebalances, the other follows. But this phase transition is not comfortable. Steam does not rise without pressure. Expect old patterns to intensify briefly as the system purges them. Triggers you thought dormant may roar back momentarily, as if testing your commitment to the new frequency. People who once defined your life may show up with desperate attempts to pull you back into the old loops. That's normal. The old resonance is not willing to die quietly. It will scratch, it will bargain, it will rage. Your clarity is the only honest response. Meet the agitation with the steady breath of someone who knows their engine is changing. Stand in the discomfort and do not feed the reflex to retreat. At the quantum level, timeline bifurcation becomes visible. Small forks that once puzzled you now reveal themselves as decisive hinge points. A conversation that seems trivial becomes the pivot that sets 1,000 micro-decisions into alignment. A yes or no offered from coherence rather than fear splits probabilities with profound consequences. You will learn to treat these hinge moments with the reverence of an artisan touching the seam of a new garment. They are the stitches of destiny. Each stitch made in resonance holds the new fabric together. There will be tests of fidelity. The field always checks whether your upgrade is durable. It does this by offering familiar temptations, old grievances presented as righteous causes, shortcuts presented as efficient solutions, the comfort of small familiar cages. These are the final exams. Passivity collapses into history when you refuse the small betrayals of truth. Say no to the comfortable lie. Say yes to the raw alignment that costs less in the long arc of your life. Your relationships will be litmus tests, too. Some connections will ascend with you, surprising allies who mirror your new frequency back to you, people who return like migratory birds when conditions shift. Others will depart, not maliciously but because their resonance no longer matches the new topology of your life. Grief may visit, briefly and intensely, but grief is not failure. It is the clean air after a room has been cleared. Honor it, do not sit in it. Let mourning be a passage, not a residence. As the DNA breakthrough stabilizes, you will begin to notice external confirmations that are more than coincidence. Financial flows will repattern in ways that feel less like scramble and more like alignment, resources arriving in forms that match your new work instead of forcing the old. Projects that stalled will morph into platforms. Synchronicities will escalate from subtle nudges to structural design. Meetings planned by unseen hands, places opening for you as if the world itself rearranged a chair to receive you. Yet the deepest sign of true breakthrough is internal peace. Not the feverish calm of avoidance, but the soft, unshakable center that undergirds action. In turbulence, you will find a still point. In celebration, your humility will remain intact. That center is the fingerprint of DNA committed to a new timeline. When you operate from it, your choices become less about gain and more about fidelity to a vision only you can hold. Remember, this is not solitary heroism. Your upgrade resonates into the collective lattice. Each genetic recalibration you anchor makes it easier for others to follow. Morphic resonance is not metaphor, it is mechanism. Your stabilized field reduces the energetic cost for the next soul to tune. In this way, your DNA breakthrough accelerates not only your destiny but the possible destinies of many. Stand with your back straight, breathe like an ocean, and let the pressure do its work. The lid will lift. The steam will transform. The landscape of your life will not merely change, it will realign to the music you now carry in your bones. When the shift is complete, there will be no way to go back to the old loops. That is the irreversible mercy of evolution. Once you have tasted a higher coherence, the lower patterns lose their attraction and their power. You will move forward with a velocity that feels like destiny rushing to meet you. And now we arrive at the horizon, the place where your private breakthrough and the collective destiny meet as one. You have felt the loops, diagnosed the distortions, welcomed the upgrade, embodied the sensations, endured the pressure of DNA restructuring. And here you stand on the threshold where your individual coherence is no longer just about you. It is about us. It is about humanity. Because every block you've shattered, every declaration you've made, every tremor of coherence you've stabilized, has already rippled outward. You've lightened the load for countless others who will never know your name but will feel your frequency. That's the nature of morphic resonance. No victory is isolated. No leap is selfish. When you align, the field bends. When you embody resonance, humanity accelerates. Look at the world. Nations circling ancient disputes, societies repeating ancestral wounds, families entangled in generational loops. You once thought you were small against such vast tides. But coherence is not measured in numbers, it's measured in purity. One steady note can retune an entire orchestra. One resonant consciousness can shift probability for thousands. That is the weight and the wonder of your mission. And the mission is not grandiose performance, it is fidelity. Waking each day and choosing alignment over fear. Breathing through turbulence until stillness emerges. Speaking truth when silence would be easier. Creating pockets of coherence wherever you walk. Homes, workplaces, communities. In this way, you are less like a warrior in battle and more like a seed disperser, planting frequencies in soil that once seemed barren. Humanity is at its own phase transition. The planet trembles with pressure, systems destabilize, time itself bends. Old structures fracture because their resonance cannot hold the surge. Into that fracture, coherent souls step, people like you, tuned, tempered, and willing. You are not here by accident. You are stationed as a node, a lighthouse for others groping in the fog. And here is the final truth. Once you align with resonance, every block shatters instantly. Destiny no longer crawls, it rushes, pouring through you with the urgency of a river undammed. The acceleration you feel is not just your life unfolding faster. It is humanity's evolution quickening through you. You are a bridge between timelines, a carrier of coherence in an age that forgot what harmony feels like. So breathe once more. Feel the hum in your chest. Know that your body is no longer a cage but a compass, no longer a memory of loops but a map of liberation. Stand tall in this recognition. You are both witness and participant in the greatest transition your species has ever known. The universe has been waiting for this note, and you are playing it now. Your resonance is active, your DNA unlocked, your destiny accelerated. And as you move forward, remember this prophetic truth. Once you align with resonance, every quantum block shatters instantly, and destiny accelerates urgently, not only for you, but for all of us.